Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for the Power Rangers Dino Fury Red Ranger Dino Fury Saber. For whatever reason, it's labeled as just the Red Rangers because it's not as if they're all identical, but it's clearly the Red Rangers, as you can see here by the red blade and the red eye on it. But this is kind of a halfway point, I guess, between the costume version and the colorful light version that's just a really small, well, version with some sounds. And it's honestly pretty pitiful. Like, you probably don't even need to watch the rest of the review. You could have just seen the first frame and you know everything you need to know. It's a very small one. You know, it's not meant to be like the prop from the show. It's not even meant to be kind of more like the general deluxe ones. It's just kind of meant to be a cheapo, fun one for kids. But even with that said, it's a pretty weak one. Like, the details on it are pretty bad. The molding's actually not terrible. There's some decent molding details in there. But it looks really cheap. It oddly enough looks cheaper than the costume version. And here in just a minute, I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of all the versions I have, so you'll be able to see how they all stack up to each other. But you can just tell from this, if you've seen the costume version, it actually looks cheaper than the costume version and is the cheapest looking aesthetic one, especially when you turn it over here. I mean, I guess you could be like, oh, this is what it looks like when it's sleeping. Yeah, it looks overall cheap. And you just have this red blade here that's not like fully soft or anything, but you can tell it's hollow and whatnot. This doesn't open or anything, but it doesn't have any lights. It just has sounds. And the sounds actually come from pressing the eye for some reason. I think that was a lion. And I think some of these sounds are recycled from the Morpher. They're very generic. They're not bad. But it's just so freaking weird you press it from the eye and not from a little trigger here. There's even a molded trigger. But before we get to the final verdict, which I think you already know, an obvious must-buy, let's go ahead and take a look at this compared to previous versions just so you get the gist of it. Okay, so here we have all the other versions. This here is the Memorial Edition Ryusoulkin, the big collector's edition. Obviously the closest comparable choice. I'm just kidding, but you can see the main difference there. This is the color change version, which I think is the best option in terms of, like, if you want something fun for kids. Like, I think this is meant to be fun for kids, but I think this is actually the one that's fun for kids. Not only does it look better, the mouth actually chomps, but the color feature is actually more fun than expected. This is the Japanese Ryusoldier, like, deluxe version, the standard one. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more Japanese sounds and stuff going on there. A little bit bigger, like, headpiece there and whatnot. And this is the other closest comparable version, which is right here, the costume one, which that's why it's funny to me that the costume one, which doesn't do anything, there's no sounds or lights or anything, it just bees prop, but it looks so much better. So I would say that the main audience for this is obviously going to be kids. I know it's not for collectors, although sometimes, you know, the smaller toys can end up being nice display pieces for collectors. The main audience for this is kids. With that being said, if you're looking for this for a kid, I would either recommend this one if you just want something super cheap that actually looks decently like the show, or this one, which also looks decently enough like the show and has fun features. This one is just a miss all around compared. It's like literally the weakest of all these versions. So that's about it for this. I mean, overall, this is a very weak release. I know and I acknowledge this is meant to be for kids, but I think even for kids, there's better options. It's honestly, I think, a really embarrassing release. I think that the only thing it has going for it is the sounds, and even for kids, I think it's weird that you press it from here. I mean, I suppose you could go like this, but it's just so much more natural to press it from here, and I think that's the most baffling decision for me. So obviously, this is a no for collectors, and even if you're looking for this for your kid, I think that you're better off going for the color one because that's a lot more fun for kids, or if you're on more of a budget, just get the costume one because it looks a lot better and is just generally better. I think this is one of the weakest releases in the line and is kind of an embarrassment, and I'm not even sure why it exists in this form. Like, I could see something like this existing, but just not having to look this bad. But that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.